What's up, humans? Welcome to the Human Music Podcast. I'm Luke Rain. My co-hosts are Tesko and Rip Kenny, and we are all music producers, artists, and producer coaches. This show is where we discuss all things music production and interview amazing creatives about their origins, their process, and whatever else comes up. This week is episode 103, Tesko on adding vulnerability to music. We are interviewing our very own Tesko. Listen to his superhero origin story about how guitar and Guitar Hero launched his love for playing and finding music, how recording himself in bands led him to learn engineering, the power of finding true mentorship from ill.Gates, his shift from live to electronic music, tips on how to get good at the skills you're practicing, and learning to add depth, emotion, and vulnerability in his vocals and music. The song of the week is ill.Gates and Stephen Jacobs' Flying featuring Jackie Rain, the Tesko remix. Links to that below. You're listening behind me. Slap this. And there is a bunch of sponsors we got, like Dojo TV, where we recorded this. Free producer live stream classes from the Producer Dojo Senseis that you could tune into, get in a private Discord chat with a bunch of other dope producers, and learn a lot for free. Sign up at the link. Tesko's Patreon. My boy Tesko launched a Patreon channel where you can get educational content, project files, and behind the scenes footage from him, as well as access to his private Discord, track feedback, private lessons, and more. The weekly download, where our mentor ill.Gates has private weekly group lessons and get access to almost 300 more episodes in the archive for just $20 a month. That's only $5 a week for a lesson from one of the masters of the craft. And you get access to every other lesson he's ever done in that over the past 6 years. Come on, son, get into it. $20 a month. Best deal on the internet. And guest practices where you can learn from Seth Drake at the Approach Institute. He's the best engineer we know, and your first class over there is free. Check out thehumanmusicpodcast.com, thehumanmusicpodcast.com, that is, for more episodes, more streaming services, socials, free sound packs, and stuff. And let's get on into this episode and hear what Tesko has to say.
Hello, people of Earth. This is Tesko with Rip Kenny and Trap Jesus, and you're listening to the Human Music Podcast. Woo!
Human Music Podcast. I like it. What's up, humans?
Damn, nice vibrato on that one.
Brup, son. Big up,
Yeah.
chat. Sound off in the chat as I sign in to the chat.
Man's not hot.
Yeah.
I'm not actually. It's
Bunny
slightly
was
cool in
good.
my studio for now.
Yeah, I got my sweater too.
Actually,
I'm surprised you're warm there in the mountains. It looks like they have snow.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I think I got sunburned today. We went, dude. Literally over the past 2 days, it snowed 39 inches in the mountains, and Shelby and we played hooky today. Because when do you get to ride POW in April? It was only fair.
I see nothing
Sounds
wrong
like a
with
great
that,
time.
man.
No complaints out of me. That's for damn sure. How are y'all?
Man,
Jinx.
doing great. Yeah, Goose, we're live. What's good? What's good, chat? Thanks for coming.
Yeah, we love y'all for that.
Yeah,
I mean, we love you anyways. Also, just
but also
in general,
for
but
huge,
double extra for coming into the chat saying, "Hey,
yeah,
we got
let's
a
drop
bunny
some
and a
dank gifts
goose."
in here.
Or is that a banani? Looks like a banani today.
It's a banana.
I'm cool with that. That's a way cuter way to say bunny now that I think about it.
Actually,
Banani.
it has a really nice ring to it. It's
Banani.
banani. It's like how a kid
Banani,
would try to
banani.
say bunny if they couldn't talk.
Yeah, and mix it up with banana.
Yeah.
Banana bunny.
It's like a long yellow bunny with no ears or fur or feet.
Yeah, the yellow, yeah, just the yellow banani.
Does it peel?
Yeah, exactly.
That's horrifying.
Horror.
It's actually Banuni, guys.
Banoonie.
So we have a very special guest today.
Not guest. Very special, not guest.
Specialist.
Oh, yeah. We are interviewing a very cool person, somebody I like a lot and know pretty well, but I'm excited to get to know even better today. It's Tesko!
Thank you for that amazing introduction.
God, thank you for that bunny coming out of a banana goosetronics.
Shocked by that.
That is way less terrifying than I thought it would be.
It's the cutest thing I've ever seen. That's a banani right there.
Holy shit.
Damn, you had that ready too. Like, I did not think you would just have that, like, just in the back pocket. Like, oh, you're talking about bunny banana hybrids. Like, I got something for you, buddy. And
Google
like,
image search
came ready today.
It's rule 34B of the internet is if you mention it, there's already a meme, GIF, or Photoshop of it.
Yeah, I feel like this should be a Hallmark card, eh?
Yeah, I think so.
Jamie from JRE is your hero. Well, damn, you're definitely, living up to his name. That was right on the dot.
Yeah. Well played, sir. But yeah. So let's quit avoiding the issue. I know Tesko, he's been really trying not to do this. He's so scared. He's clearly, as you can see him being on a podcast weekly, he's just a very shy person.
Unable to talk in general, much less about himself.
Or is he just so polite and Canadian that he allowed us nicely to do our interviews first, Evan? Which do you think?
I think we're just making too much of a deal out of this, and it's his turn.
I think,
You're up, son. Step to the plate. Right. Oh, wait, that's a baseball metaphor. Do y'all have that only in like one city? Two cities.
I mean, I definitely heard that from like movies and stuff, but we say bring the moose up to the ice, actually.
I love that so much.
Nice.
Bring the moose up.
And if it falls through the ice and has to swim back, then you know it's springtime.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, we don't do groundhogs here. We just bring a moose to
moose
the old
ice
lake.
day.
Yeah.
Also starring Bill Murray, luckily.
Yeah.
Or is Dan Aykroyd in that one? He's Canadian.
Man, I don't know who that is, actually.
Don't know who Dan Aykroyd is?
Seth Rogen and Ryan Reynolds.
He was like one of the other guys from Ghostbusters.
Oh, see, that might have been
also SNL. Also, so many movies. Okay, later on.
I hate to disappoint.
One day, I'm gonna fly to your home with like 9 DVDs and probably a DVD player because those are getting rare these days. And we're going to just sit down and do a Dan Aykroyd movie marathon for Tesko so you can know about his Canadian heritage.
Yeah.
We got to do that when we all link up in Bend.
Yeah.
Dan Aykroyd marathon. There's so many good movies.
Yeah. I think, spoiler alert, Tesko, I think we're going to hate all of it.
Oh no, man. They're epic. Epically funny movies.
I'll try to go in unbiased after hearing that.
Oh yeah, there's Dan Aykroyd with his skull-shaped vodka bottle in the chat. Thanks, Goose. Thanks, Jamie Goose.
Goose just on it. Jamie-tronics or Goosey. Do you prefer Goosey or Jametronics? UFOs and shit. Hell yeah, brother, DMT.
Yeah, UFOs and shit. You know about it. So, okay, Tesko, let's get to the meat of this.
All right.
What is your superhero origin story?
Well, one day a spider bit me and I realized I could sling webs. It's not much of a superhero origin story, to be honest. I was
Nico Parker in this bitch.
I was just a little kid trying to find my place. I was like 13 maybe at the time, just doing little kid stuff. And my dad told me that playing guitar would get you girls. So like, what better thing to take up for like a little insecure kid who was growing into himself, and picked up the guitar from there. And wasn't anything too serious at first, but I think once Guitar Hero came out, that really like got the ball rolling. Shout out my boy Milos. That was like my best friend growing up, and like we would do all kinds of shit together. He started playing guitar, and Guitar Hero came out at that time, and like so much of that, like finding new music and just practicing and all that, like seeing what was possible, I guess like Guitar Hero playing up like the whole rock star thing just seemed very appealing. And I was discovering like all this new / old music. And I had like, one of my best friends there I was jamming with all the time. So that early stage was just kind of like, just kind of discovering new stuff and still like messing around like in grade school with friends. Like I remember that was kind of like grade 8, grade 9. And I had another friend at school, shout out my boy Garrett, haven't seen him since or in a while, but like we had like a couple year long streak where we had like a science fair one year. We like wound up guitar pickups. Like his dad was an engineer and he helped us. And like that just got me in the world of guitar. And I think through those couple of little things, like hanging with him at school and then hanging with my friend and then doing the whole science fair thing, just kind of became associated with being the guitar guy and like did a little talent show in grade school. And I think maybe that early association of people being like, oh, he's the music guy kind of helped it stick too.
Okay,
and,
so there's two
Yeah.
things that I need to unpack right now.
Unpack it.
I think my, at least speaking for myself, and I think for a lot of other people, Guitar Hero for sure grabbed my attention, and I played that shit way too much. And I always thought in the back of my head, I was like, yeah, like the mental, like, hand-eye coordination of seeing a note and then moving my finger and playing it, like that'll translate to guitar one day, right? Like if I ever wanted to, no, it didn't at all. Like I pick up a guitar and I suck so bad. I play Guitar Hero so much, like through the fire and flames, the whole fucking shit. And it did not help me become a better guitarist. So like early on, how much did you actually play to get good at guitar? And how long were you playing before you did the talent show? And what did you play?
Oh, okay. So for the talent show, we played Don't Stop Believing by Journey.
Oh, smash.
And I remember I figured out like a sloppy ass way to play that little shreddy part in the intro. I thought I was sick. And I remember my boy, Nick Hedden at the time, he's actually like doing his own like country music thing now. He's pretty successful with it. He was, he's rocking lead vocals. Shout out Randy Lang on the drums, and yeah, it's awesome, man. Like, he had like the perfect range at that time too. Our music teacher like really just loved that we were passionate about it. So he helped us like put it all together and like would let us practice in his room and shit. So that was really cool. And then as far as how much did I play Guitar Hero versus practice, I think the only two things I did besides minimal homework was either Guitar Hero or guitar. I 4-starred through the fire and flames on expert.
Bro.
Ooh.
So pretty dweeby. But that got me into Guns N' Roses. That got me into my Slash phase. And then I just wanted to be like Slash. So I saved up for that
Hat
Les Paul.
to get the hat.
Yeah, I couldn't grow the hair, but I got this baby. And
Wow.
once I like saved up and got this, and my parents helped out a bit,
Love
shout out
that
to them.
sunburst pattern. That's beautiful. Beautiful paint.
Yeah,
on that
this
guitar.
once I got this guitar, I was I think just in love with like the idea of like what I was like, oh, I have an Epiphone, like one day I could have a Gibson like Slash, like and I was just super just fanboying about some of these artists and like seeing how cool it was to be into music. I remember at that time everybody was listening to like Drake and Lil Wayne, and at that time I was like not feeling that kind of stuff at all. And so this was kind of like I was discovering this world, and I was like, oh, okay, this is really cool. Nobody's talking about this, but there's like obviously Guitar Hero people knew, but like further from that, it kind of like kickstarted going through the rest of the Guns N' Roses discography, who is Metallica, blah blah blah, going all down all those rabbit holes of like artists people weren't necessarily listening to at the time,
except in the rest of the world. Travel anywhere,
yeah,
and
not
Guns
at
N'
my grade
Roses
school, though.
is still the biggest band in the world. I
Yeah.
swear to God, I went to South America, and in like 3 months, I heard more Guns N' Roses than in the rest of my life combined.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
Everybody
It
riding
was-
mopeds, wearing jean jackets, mullets, Guns N' Roses. The 80s never ended.
Yeah, you know, at the time, like so where I'm at is like very, very multicultural. So like since I grew up, I would say like racially it's been split pretty even, and I've gotten to like, I just grew up with people from so many different backgrounds. So like, you know, I was a kid of immigrant parents, like a lot of my friends were. I felt like I related to my immigrant friends a lot more on certain things, and like a lot of us missed out on so many American classics of music and movies and all that stuff, because what I grew up with was like Serbian music and going to Serbian parties, and like my Ethiopian friends grew up with Ethiopian music, and like nobody was necessarily listening to Guns N' Roses. And it seemed like a lot of the people were like either, you know, trying to like, we're listening to rap and like kind of being gangstas, and I just felt like, I don't know, like didn't really feel like my thing, and popular music didn't really feel like my thing. So I think I just kind of gravitated towards that. So, and then I think also that just kind of compounded, because for a lot of years people would be like, oh, do you know this? And I'd be like, no clue. And then, you know, it's kind of like feedback loop almost there. But let's see.
I think for like most people, I just want to say like, just shouts out that cool phase in like middle school-ish where you start becoming aware that music existed before you existed.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, have y'all heard of these Led Zeppelin people?
Oh my God, right?
Like,
That's
or
such
Pink
a
Floyd
thing.
exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stairway to Heaven one time forever.
Right?
Changed.
It's like, oh my God. Yeah, dude. I love that moment in life. Shouts out to that moment. I mean, I still, you know, things trickle in that I was completely unaware of that are older, that, you know, that blow my mind every once in a while. But that there was like a hunk there starting in like middle school, moving through high school, even a little into college when I started like getting into vinyl and picking up vinyl records at thrift shops, where it was just like, holy crap, what is this? George Clinton exists. Oh my God, here's where all the samples of my favorite rap songs came from. So shouts out to that era of life that we all pretty much go through. And sounds like you had like an amplified version of that based on living in an immigrant household and family, where you brought your own culture, your parents brought their culture with them. And so that was your first step into music and culture. And then you got like that double explosion of not only is this like the new culture that I've stepped into, it's also the stuff that was there before I was born, which is badass.
It's like, you know, there were certain things that were really like foreign feeling to me. Like, people might not know this, but English is my second language. So like when my parents moved here, my grandparents came, and like they were all raising me, and nobody could speak fluent English yet. So when it came time for preschool, they just kind of were like, you know, go figure that shit out. And just kind of had to piece it together, knowing like very minimal English. And so
Continue your origin story. We derailed you hard.
So this is all important, right? So like that was a big part of it. All I knew really was Serbian music and what I was discovering. And now leading out of like grade 8 into high school, that was like heavy on the LimeWire and on the iPod Nano. And I would just be going on the blogs and just like searching for like what's got the coolest album cover, because that is important. And I would just be like, this looks sick, download this whole project. And I would just download like 6 of those at a time, and just, you know, in the bus, I was always just like listening and just being like, how would you play this? Like, just absolute nerd. I can't even lie about that. I was just always like just tuned into music, always just thinking about doing it, you know? And Goose is asking, do you sample yourself singing or speaking in Serbian? I definitely will do more Serbian music where I'm singing. I think I want to bring every single influence I have. I think that's the best way to make unique stuff. But my Serbian vocabulary is limited to conversational stuff. So I don't really feel like I have any like modern slang or that I could sound swaggy or cool. I feel like I can converse with like parents and grandparents and come off as like, oh, he's sweet kind of guy. That's what the vocabulary I have.
He's trying.
No, I can speak fluently. It's just I don't know any like cool words. I know how to like communicate with my parents and grandparents, and like obviously they're not gonna be teaching me like slang or like cool shit, right?
Yeah.
So
of course.
I could get around perfectly. It's just if I was hanging out with anybody that's not white collar, they would probably think I'm a narc or something. So, Knights of Sidonia was a great one.
Yeah, good. Another good rock band / Guitar Hero song, whichever one that was in.
Yeah, I think that was Guitar Hero. So, dude, that was crazy. Like, I was discovering all those bands from Guitar Hero, like Fall of Troy and Slayer and Metallica and Slipknot and all that stuff. And I eventually started gravitating towards like heavier music. So that was when like the progressive metal and the like gent scene came out, which was like just really heavy, but also melodic, rhythmic kind of guitar shit. It was just like when that came out, it was like a new turning point for metal. And it really highlighted the bedroom producers. It was like this sound was totally unique and different, and it was catching that world by a storm. And then also like all of the top people in that genre, like Tosin Abasi and Misha Mansour and people that know, like they were bedroom producers, and they were making all of this from their bedroom. And I was using Guitar Pro at the time to like learn songs, and I eventually started like tabbing out guitar songs, and it could like play the tabs back to you. But I would always, like send it to people, and they'd be like, bro, like, did you like make this on a Game Boy? Like, what is this? Like, why does it sound so electronic-y? So I was like, all right, these guys are doing this from their bedroom. This sounds amazing. I posted on 7string.org, which was a guitar forum, which was like, they were like back when guitars were like 6-string only. They were talking about like cool guitars, custom guitars that you could order from around the world. And they were talking about how to use these extended range instruments and blah, 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 blah. All this nerdy shit.
Wait, and Ibanez 7-string wasn't just always the metal standard?
Hell no. Korn might have had that at the time, and John Petrucci, and that's it. And as far as the rest, it was people being like, hey, I'm in a moderately touring band and I have access to the Ibanez custom shop, and look at this 6/7 string they built me. And then all the other nerds like me would go on that forum and look at it and then just nut our pants and just be like, oh my God, that's so crazy. I can't wait to have that. And honestly, it was like, I think that like kind of fanboyism and the nicheness, whatever, of that community, everybody was so nerdy and passionate. And there was this like style of music originating from it that was completely made from the bedroom. I just started frequenting that, and then I, started asking people like, yo, how do I do this? What do I need to buy? Like, how do I get my shit loud? Why is it so quiet? And then people would tell me like, oh man, like check out this free plugin. It's a limiter. And then I'd be like, oh, what are limiters? And then that's kind of how that whole thing started. And I remember recording like I remember going, there's a store here called Long and McQuaid, which is Canadian Guitar Center. And I went there and I got a Scarlett 2i2 because I was tired of people saying my shit sounds like a Game Boy. And I recorded this thing and I threw this free limiter that they told me to, and it was loud. And I was like, this is crazy. This sounds so amazing. And I uploaded it to get some feedback, and people were like, bro, like, why did you smash the limiter 40 dB? Like, as soon as the cymbal dies out, like your whole mix is pumping. And I was like, I didn't know what that meant. I couldn't even like hear it at the time. And anyway, it was honestly a lot of that beginning process.
It was quiet. That was bad. Now it's loud. Is it not good?
So that was the follow-up. I would just comment in that thread, and the fact that the community was so strong and that people were willing to engage me, I think was a lot of the reason, like, it helped me learn, because the next thing I was like, I don't know what you mean by that. Can you elaborate? And then, some awesome people helped me out. And that kind of kickstarted the whole journey. And then, so basically, I got semi-decently good. I was trying Cubase and Reaper and all these DAWs and just trying to figure out drum programming. What is superior drummer? How do I make my guitar not sound like ass? Oh, I don't need an amp to do this anymore. I could plug into the computer. Sick. Cue that whole journey. A couple of years later, I'm finally able to like write into the DAW, and I'm realizing it's very hard to start a band. And around this time, I'm like just finishing high school. I'm working like a, shit factory job, just building like car doors. And I'm just, luckily at that job, I was trying to pay for school, they at least let me listen to music. So I would go and watch tutorials on all these producers. And I came across like Barely Alive live stream, Virtual Riot live stream, like this, that. Eventually ended up stumbling across the ill methodology. And basically I had a couple of things like ill methodology. I must have listened to like 20 times, and I would just download them to my iPod or my iPhone, whatever I had at that time, and literally ignore everybody around me and just drill this into my head. And even if I had no clue what they were talking about, I would just listen to these terms and words, and whatever stuck with me, I would just come home and try to just do as much of that as I could until I passed out. And eventually, found out about the ill methodology. I had just been saving up all this money because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to do music. And as soon as this thing came up and I saw I could take sessions with Dylan, and, I'd listened to him 20 times at that point, highly looked up to him. I was like, this guy gets it. He understands me. I saw I could work with him, and it was a no-brainer. I just jumped right into that. And a bit before that, I was discovering like Getter and Jaws, and that kind of like scene was really coming up. And I went to a couple shows here at Electricity in Michigan, if anybody knows. And I just remember being mind blown that I could do this and I wouldn't have to wait for a band. So blah, blah, blah. I see ill methodology. I see that you can do sessions with Dylan, and I'm like, fuck it, however much it is, whatever the cost, like I'm here grinding and just listening to these videos all day. Let's get it. And I started my session with Dylan, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to blow him away. I've been grinding so hard. I'm going to show him, like, he's going to be impressed. And I just remember him giving me feedback I'd never heard, like, oh, maybe like add like a high-end sprinkler to kind of like tickle the stereo field a little here. And I was like, what? Like, you don't just manually pan things like and just keep them static, and that's just how they are? Like, and he just said some things where I realized, like, literally there is nowhere I could have commented on the internet and asked people for this. I never would have picked up on this alone. I left that session being like, I never would have even expected to hear the advice I got from you. And that kind of made me realize, like, damn, I'm not shit. I have ways to go. You tipped
over the first hill of the Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, at that point, like, so I thought, I was like, I just got like MIDI drum programming down. I probably did like that arrangement exercise kind of thing, breaking down like 30 of my favorite songs, just writing out the drums manually. And I was like, man, I got this. I could do drums. I could record guitar. I could do vocals. I got this. And then I go in and you go in the world of like electronic music, and you realize how much is possible. You realize like, oh, I wasn't big into hip hop at the time. So now there's the world of sampling. Now there's a world of let's take something old, breathe new life into it. Now there's the world of sound design. Now there's the world of, DJ sets, and how does this music fit within a certain context and all of this stuff. So after that, I kind of left the metal rock world and just got fully into electronic music. I was in school at the time, studying and just working on music. I found anytime I would have projects build up and I was supposed to be doing something else, that's when the best inspiration would come. And so I would just say, fuck it every time. As long as I'm roughly at a passing average, fuck it, I'm doing music. And through that, I ended up releasing my first EP through the dojo. and pretty crazy. It was something I never expected to happen, and opened up a lot of doors, you know, like teaching at the dojo and stuff like that. And it was awesome. Like you know, I really can't be more grateful for that opportunity happening the way it did. But it was a couple months after that I realized that I actually don't want to be like a dubstep DJ kind of guy like I thought I wanted to. Which, you know, people, I made a video on this on my YouTube, but like basically I was getting really good feedback on like, hey, like great mix down or like good sound design. And then I felt like, man, like nobody's like complimenting me on like good job on like a part of me. It's like good job executing this thing that this genre does. And it felt more like a technical resume. And I know some people like it and you know, much appreciated, and I'm glad, but like for me looking back, I remember struggle fucking through that and thinking my barrier was here, and then reaching that, which was like a 1.5 year long process going back and forth with Dylan, and then realizing like I kind of sucked all of the emotion out of it. And I felt like at that point, you know, let's return back to guitar. I heard about John Bellion at the time. I was getting way more into like hip hop and stuff like that, and like seeing people use their voice. And also I feel like hip hop has like grown so much and like merged so much with pop music, and like pop music now is not as corny as it was like before. So everything kind of came full circle, and I became like just opened my mind to those genres more. And now I would say I'm not like a metal producer or a dubstep producer or whatever. I'm kind of genre agnostic, and I just love music overall. And I mean, yeah, I guess where I'm at now, I just kind of try to keep my palette of what I'm doing open, and I've been very focused on the teaching, obviously. And yeah, I'm just mainly hoping to continue the sound moving forward and make more valuable educational resources, and that's kind of where I'm at with music today.
Yeah.
Long roundabout, but
Amen.
Here we are at the modern day.
I think one thing for me that was a big takeaway from everything that you just said was that, like, if you want to get good at something, like it's not really enough to want to be good at it. You have to like live and breathe it, right? Like when you're talking about like you're working in a car factory, stamping doors and just all day listening to music production stuff and like trying to get better, like even if it's just 1% in the background during your daily life, like that really shows like that you love that. Like you are committed in and out to getting better at that thing. And I think that really does move the needle as far as like allowing yourself the subconscious headspace to like always be ruminating about these things that like you want to improve on. And I think that is for anyone listening and literally making any type of art, it's important to come at it with that mindset. I do have a question for you that I think it's about guitar, but it relates back to the whole process. And I think that there's probably takeaways for the whole thing. But so like, for instance, for me in guitar, where I'm at right now, I'm at the point where I'm realizing that like more than half the battle in like playing guitar and making it actually really sound good is not like just playing the notes in the right order, in the right rhythm, and getting the notes right. Like half the battle is actually like using your other 3 fingers, if you're playing like a 1-note line, to mute all the other strings around what you're playing so that there's no string buzzing on these 2 frets. And like it's not just getting the thing right. It's like being artful with it and like actually being able to master how that thing truly does sound like your heroes, or like sound good, right? And so there's like this whole learning process of like, you know, being able to do the thing and then being able to make the thing sound good, right? So for my question is like, in particular with guitar, like how did you break through that intermediate stage of, you know, learning how to do the thing and then actually learning how to do it like really well, right? And then I think that the answer probably translates to electronic music production in general.
So first off, thanks. I still feel pretty intermediate, to be honest.
Yeah,
but there's a
right,
couple
bro.
Things, well, all right, there's a couple things that I feel like every genre has really helped me with. And like now whenever I work with people, I definitely see that they maybe might not think about some stuff. So for example, if I'm working with people who are more like rock kind of music where it's more just like jam, they tend not to do as much editing and things tend to sound a little sloppier. And like it all depends on what you're going for, but you know, truth be told, and like so you asked how, a fuck ton of recording and listening back and cringing. And so a lot of people that play in bands maybe just go through one recording process once they've written their songs and someone edits it behind the scenes, and then they don't see all of the dirt that gets into their playing. And so a lot of times I got to be the guy to be like, you know, I kind of feel awkward because I don't want to be the know-it-all in the studio, but I'm like, hey man, like you got to listen to this part. Like you're not locking into the metronome like at all. Like you're totally off after 8 bars. In fact, you're playing at a different tempo and that kind of stuff. Like I think, I don't know, I was going through and learning it alone, and I was always in the state of this sounds like ass and I don't know why, and let me try to explore every possibility. So I eventually stumbled on it, but it is kind of weird when you're in the studio with somebody and you're like, all right, can you redo this take more on the metronome? All right, can you, all right, that one was good, but watch out for string noise. Okay, cool. This one, you know, you're playing the wrong note. Like it kind of like kills the vibe. So I find like if you're really serious about this, try hopping from genre to genre, because you're going to pick up certain stuff that like, you know, maybe you don't need to be as on the dot as electronic music requires you to be, but you realize like, oh damn, I could actually be a lot tighter. Because if I have 4 instruments out of sync slightly, that's a big deal, you know. And a lot of the times,
fantastic.
yeah. And anyway, not to like go too heavy on this point, but you know, a lot of the times it's like you're jamming in a real setting and you don't even realize like things sound way better when you're jamming it versus listening back. And I feel like a lot of the times jam sessions are more fun. It's not supposed to be this like neurotically perfect thing, but it's like it's so necessary for developing that part of the skill set if you're playing an instrument. So to answer your question, shit ton of recording, practicing to a metronome, listening to it, and then also I was like, I really liked like fast technical music, and you know, it definitely sounds way better when shit is tight. So yeah. I learned very quickly, you know, to do that and keep that attention to detail.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point. I mean, like in your process to get good at guitar, it sounds like you were able to provide yourself all of the feedback that you needed by recording those takes and being honest with yourself about, was that, you know, the 4th string buzzing on this take, and like, was that note just like slightly out of tune and all this stuff. Like you were committed to getting it right because you wanted to play the technical stuff tight and, you know, be that style of guitarist, but also you were willing to give yourself the hard, honest feedback about how you were truly doing. And I think like anyone listening can admit, like there's no easy way to get artful at stuff. Like you can get good at stuff the easy way for sure, or like get good enough to impress your friends at something, but like really to like be at that next caliber, you have to be able to listen and understand and accept honest, brutal feedback. And I think that shows that you're really passionate about the subject, but B, you have the work ethic to get through that part of your learning process and keep moving with it. And so, yeah, I really think that, at least for me, the takeaway there is that like, you gotta not pretend like like what you're doing is okay, you gotta record it and listen to it dry with no distortion and
So
like
dry.
see how it sounds, right? Like you gotta be honest with yourself. And it's the same thing with music production. Like you gotta be able to make the song, play it for yourself or any. I mean, it's tougher with a whole song because there's so many things to listen to, right? When you're listening to a guitar take, I think that it magnifies this concept, right? Because there's only one thing that you're listening to, and like, like, is it right or is it wrong based on like, is there string buzzing? Is this note in tune? Like, is the rhythm correct? Is it, to the metronome? And with a whole song, there's so much other stuff that can kind of cloud your judgment about what is or what isn't good. You're listening to the melody, you're listening to the chords, you're listening to the rhythm, you're listening to the vibe that the song creates, you're listening to the drums, you're listening to the mix down, you're like everything. Like no one could give you specific feedback on everything all at once, but I think that it hammers home the fact that like you need honest, direct feedback. And you have to be able to like just be brutally okay with realizing shortcomings and anything, and like wanting to learn and grow and work on this stuff to get better.
Yeah, totally. One other pretty big thing too was, I think what really helped drive some of the passion was like being told growing up like music should be a hobby and there's no money in it, and like it's probably won't amount to much for you, so just enjoy it for what it is. And I would, see people maybe do a cover song or something and get complimented on it, but you can kind of low-key tell like people are doing it like to be nice or whatever. And there was kind of this combination of like people telling me that this is not possible, and then also seeing people like I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It can be a fun thing, but like people not maybe having the best performance and getting praise, where I realized like, all right, so people are going to tell me it's not possible, but also blow smoke up my ass when I do a bad job. So I really need to make sure that if I'm going to stick it to people and show them that, hey, fuck that, you were wrong, I need to, any person I could find that had any smidgen of success that I felt like was attainable or that I looked up to, I was like, hey, do you do lessons? What's good? Can you teach me some shit? And I would take any mentor session I got. Like, when I was doing guitar in high school, I found one dude around here who managed this band called Protest the Hero, who was like my bro, that was like my holy fucking trinity. Like they were in my holy trinity as far as influences. And I was like, that's crazy. And he had his own local band. And like, I was like, that's sick. I want lessons immediately, and I made it a weekly thing. And that was a big thing. Anytime I learn a skill, I'm like, let me find somebody that will keep me accountable to this at least weekly, so that even if I don't have the time, I have to show up and look like an asshole and get roasted and like have them tell me what to work on. That I think was really big. But anyway, not to hammer too much on that, but there was definitely, that's how I start working with Dylan too. So I kind of realized like, all right, I need to find people who are doing this. And yeah. Big shout out to my parents too for bringing me to my first guitar lessons and all that. That was definitely huge too.
Mentorship, man.
Yeah.
Mentorship is so important. Like we can fumble around in the dark trying to blaze a new trail up the mountain, or we can just like get a guide, get a Sherpa to be like, no, this is the path.
To set the fixed rope ahead of you.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of times too, there would be like for example, in high school, I was like, oh, let me take whatever music class I can. And like, that was usually very formal learning, very like Concerto 4 by whatever the fuck. Here's your assignment. And it's like, bro, I don't give a damn about Concerto 4. I want to learn sweep picking. So that was like, I would always take the music shit and I'd be like, I don't even care if I fail. I just want to hear what you have to say, and I'm going to take what I want to do from this and do that. And like, I'm going to do Concerto 4 if I feel like it. But honestly, fuck sight reading. I got tabs. And oftentimes I would just transcribe that shit to tabs and learn it. I was just like, here you go. I don't need this. Yeah. So, you know,
Yeah.
it was a lot of just expose yourself to as much as possible.
Amen.
You don't need to be amazing at it.
Yeah. Something that I really like that you said earlier that I wanted to circle back and put a pin in it was you mentioned you got to the point where you were releasing your dubstep tunes and, you got it out on the label. You were excited. It was a big accomplishment, but you noticed the feedback you were getting was more like, wow, great technical skill set, and less about like, wow, I love this part of you that you put into this. And I know that from talking to you that your focus has shifted again in music, where it went from like doing metal to doing electronic, and now it's shifted from doing the purely electronic more towards like vocal driven music. And it seems like that's so you can put more of yourself in there, lead with the emotion part, right? Is that what that's going for? And I would love to like be able to shift that into a discussion of what you're currently working on and what's driving you in it now.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard to explain, but like growing up, there was a lot that like I thought to be a vocalist, you're either doing like kind of Broadway singing or you're a rapper or like you're in a metal band. And I was like, all right, the metal band's the coolest option. I'm gonna do this. And I never really listened to the vocals for metal. I just kind of liked the texture and how they blended with the instruments and all that and the feel they would give. And I started to realize people really cared about lyrics. And I realized that I was always taking the stance of like, oh, I don't like how pop vocals sound. Gross. Get it away from me. And actually, I was really scared to write lyrics. Like when I would play in bands and stuff, I would always hope like, yo, I hope we got a singer, because like I feel so cringe writing about myself. Like, I feel like I had a bit of self-awareness, but not enough to talk about my feelings. I don't really feel comfortable talking about feelings or how I see the world. Or I had views, I was questioning the world and all that, but I didn't feel comfortable putting that down and singing it. And it just felt like, I don't know. I was the skater kid. I was the metal kid, raw, rough, like I don't want to be doing that Broadway shit. And so that's in my mind. And then with the rap stuff, it was like, again, grew up in a multicultural area, like, some of my black friends were listening to it, but not really huge into it. And then a lot of the people I see listening to it are like out of whatever, not black, you could say, using the N-word and stuff. And I was like, cringe. Yeah. So I don't feel part of that either. So then it, all came full circle. I came across John Bellion. That was a big artist for me. He was doing like pop music, but he was doing very like Jay Dilla inspired beats. And I was like, oh, okay, he's singing kind of pop style and he has these very like vulnerable lyrics and stuff. And, like it really resonates when he says certain things. Like when he had like, I don't know. He had a couple lines. Like he had one line where he was like, "Why? My phone's got a GPS. Well, why do I still feel lost? I had the time to smoke and drink, but I don't got the time to call my mom. I got a gorgeous woman in my bed tonight, but I'm scared I'll die alone." And shit like that. I was like, bro, no sound design I've ever made can say some shit like that. And I was like, and I have to respect the vulnerability, because I was not comfortable saying anything like that. Like, I wasn't going to admit not that I wouldn't admit faults, but I wouldn't make a song about it. Like, ugh. So hearing that inspired me. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to just take vocal lessons. And started getting a lot more into like rap and R&B and pop music and stuff like that. Woo! And yeah, it was actually so I was doing the whole singing thing, ended up moving to Calgary 3 years ago. And while I was there, that kind of slowed down. And one of my coworkers was like, do you know Daniel Caesar? So I was like, no, I don't. I'll check him out. And he turns out he's a Toronto artist. He does R&B. And it was like hearing his voice just sounded so angelic. And I stopped taking vocal lessons again for a bit at that time, where I was just like, all right, I don't give a damn. I'm going to find an R&B vocal coach, and I'm going to approach this from a new perspective, because the guy I was working earlier with was like more like a rock guy. So I was like, all right, let me get into this. Then I found a coach who does more like rap kind of stuff. So he's one of my current mentors still, and he got me really into rapping. And I was like, man, I'm not gonna lie, like I'm kind of curious to try rapping. I just feel like such a nerdy white boy. And he he helped me with a lot of that. He's like, bro, like it's not about that. Like you need to be practicing your skill set. It's not like you inherently can't do this, but like, you know, he really helped me hone into like what rap is about, like truly at its core. And like he also has like a very strong foundation and like is like very well rounded in all kinds of music. So I really respected with him, like if somebody brought like a track for feedback, he'd be like, bro, what are you doing like rapping about cars and guns and shit? Like that's what seems cool, that's what seems like the rap thing, but that's not what it's about. And he really opened up my eyes a lot to like the art of lyric writing and hearing a lot of like his story expressed through his lyrics. And like you know, like he grew up in Houston and had like a pretty crazy life, and like hearing him try to like develop his rap career and go through that was really eye-opening. And then having him also be so open-minded to a variety of music really made me feel like, all right, I feel like if I put in the time, I could actually do this. Maybe not be a rapper, but maybe I could train the rhythmic part of my voice here, and maybe I could train the singing part of my voice here, and maybe I could figure out some way to make it genuinely me. And so that's kind of been my journey over the last, you know, however long, is just, you know, working with a variety of mentors in different styles and kind of taking a little bit from each of them. And now I don't really know what I'd call my music, but I would say rappy, singy, pop, kind of hip hop infused, electronic metal influenced music.
Woo! We just need a tagline for that, because that sounds dope as fuck. We just need to like make that a little more roll off the tonguey.
Yeah, it needs a sweet name to it. Human music.
Woo!
Yeah. Honestly, that's like the truest definition of human music.
Yeah, man.
Just a whole bunch of everything.
In some respects, for sure. Speaking of human music, and since you mentioned vocals and like lyric writing and the art of lyric writing, and I think that this is also another thing that would be really worth unpacking for anyone listening, is what are some takeaways that you've learned from either writing lyrics or singing yourself, just anything that generally has helped you become a better vocalist.
So definitely a huge part of that was working with my mentor, like I said. So hearing like, what was it like growing up in Houston and then pursuing your own rap career, and like where were your shortcomings and stuff like that. A lot of what he shared with me was like, he was trying to make conscious rap and like trying to stay away from the party stuff. And like, I kind of felt that too. Like I felt like maybe the party stuff is cringe. Like, let me try and show like a little more. And he really opened up my eyes to like, hey man, that held me back, because I thought I was too cool for this. And like, it's not about you coming across as cool. It's about you serving the vibe of the song. And if it's like a lighthearted song, you don't need to be getting crazy with like, you know, whatever, versus in the opposite case, where it's like, if it's more story based, you know, then go deeper into that, but like don't like cut off that part of your creativity. That was huge. And then 2 was, he really pushed me on like, if you're saying, for example, like so like let me think of an example, right? So typically people will say like, I'm scared, you broke my heart. It's very generic. But like, for example, I was listening to a rap song and I was just thinking, because I had a conversation earlier with like a friend. He's like, rap lyrics are garbage, whatever. But now I see the value in it. There was a song by Babyface Ray, and he says something along the lines of, they told me that the rapping shit would never work. My brother was trying to teach me how the vacuum worked. And I was like, at surface level, it's very like whatever, but it says so much in that because he's getting very specific. They didn't believe in me. My brother was trying to get me in the drug game, which means my family is tied in with this. I was trying to keep a level head and get out of this. And now I finally made it. That's 5 things said in 2 lines, whereas most people would be like, I'm a hustler and I'm grinding. My brother sells drugs. And it's like, nah, he said a whole story in those 2 lines. And so that really opened up my eyes. Like, instead of saying, I don't trust anybody, you know, I think in another song, he's got one where he's like, I've got so many knife wounds up in my back. And it's like, what does that say? Right? It's like, that means you trusted people. And time again, they stabbed you in the back. And now you have the imagery of the knife wounds bleeding. It's not saying, I don't trust anybody. So it's like, how do you incorporate more depth into what you're saying? Because you can say, I'm scared, or you can say, my door's locked and the blinds are down and I'm looking every direction frantically. And they both say the same thing, but one paints such more of an image. Like, are you scared, or are you a little paranoid and you're doubting yourself? Or are you terrified and you're freaking out and you're sweating bullets? That is a huge difference. And then lastly, his approach on so using my voice more rhythmically and then tying it in with the melodic stuff. So I think he did a really good job of bringing up more older kind of rap influences where it's like not so much tonality based, and thinking about how the voice can be used kind of like a drum. And I think of it as like a marching snare or something. And just kind of the ways he taught me to like construct things rhythmically first and then add the melody and then think about like melodic directions. I just felt like the rapping melodic approach is different from singing melodically. And so having that distinction and kind of hearing like, you know, I mean, hearing all of his influence in like the last 30 years, and then also just being so tied in with the Houston scene, and then also being a curious mind and looking like, he put me onto Babyface Ray, which is from Detroit, who I never heard of. He's really tapped into all that. So, and like he came up or like he played some early shows with Don Tolliver, who is a huge influence for me. Yo, much love, Goose. Peace. And like being able to ask him like, yo, what was that like? Like, what did you see different in him that he did versus blah, blah, blah. Like that really opened up my eyes to like, okay, there's a certain swagger and feel that you have to bring to the take. It's not just about saying the right stuff and being on time. It's about like, you know, he'd be like, oh, is this a lovey song, or is this a confidence song, or whatever? Make me feel that in your voice. And that was really like the last thing. And I'm always working on those areas. I always feel like there's room for improvement, but he really shifted my focus on those core principles, and that made me cringe way less at my voice and my lyric writing.
Yeah. I think that's huge too. I think one thing for anyone that's trying to sing themselves is like, as a producer first, at least, like you can nudge the notes with you know, Melodyne or some sort of auto tune. You can nudge the notes into being right. You can, you know, Complex Pro warp the timing a little bit if you were late on this word or that one, but you can't change the feel of what you said after the fact.
Yeah,
like
just auto tune, not auto emotion.
Yeah, if you do nothing else right, lock in to the emotion and the feeling and the character of the story that you're portraying, or just at the bar minimum, like how would you feel if like how do you feel like saying these lyrics? They're like, obviously, if you wrote it, it means something to you. Like, go to the farthest extent of like how you would express that because it means something to you, and like dive into that, and then do 10 takes, like just living that emotion, and then find the best one notes and rhythm wise if all of them, you know, are dialed in on the emotion. And sometimes the notes and the rhythm don't even matter. There's one take that's just like, oh my God, I was so in that feeling in that take that the rest of it doesn't even matter. Like you'll just, you can either nudge it into place or literally it doesn't matter because the emotion is so on point. Like, you like literally listen to any of your favorite, at least for me, a lot of my influences being, you know, alternative and metal and that kind of scene, right? Like you listen to like an Audio Slave song and tell me that every note in there is perfect and that the takes they chose were the ones that were like the most produced already. No, there's like takes where his voice cracks and like the note is like wrong and he kind of like slides into it, but it just has the feel. Like get the feel right, the rest of itself will work out.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It really helps when you feel like what you're saying and how you're saying it is genuine for the final product to come out proper.
Amen.
Yeah.
That emotion is really what the music's about, isn't it? It's like, this is what is conveyed by music. Like you could have just wrote a Facebook post if you're just trying to tell somebody something, right? But like the reason we do it in music is because it conveys the emotion on so many more levels. And the lyric is a part of that. The groove is a part of that. But like, lead with that emotion, you know? Like, in anything that we're doing. And listeners, humans, like, focus on that part. If the vibe you're trying to get across gets across and touches somebody in their heart, they will overlook mix issues. They will overlook, you know, imperfections if your voice cracked or whatever. And sometimes your voice cracking makes it better. Like I was watching, it was something about like Boys to Men, and there's like one of their big hits, and I was like End of the Road or something like that, where one of the singers is hitting his verse and his voice cracks on the take. He's like, oh, we got to do it again. You know, the voice cracked. And the producer's like, no, we don't. I think it was like Babyface produced the song or something. He's like, nope, that was so good. All of the emotion came through and your voice cracking actually made that better to me.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Little things like that. One thing that's really helped me is like anytime I record a take or anytime I like usually it's if I'm recording something, it's usually a performance kind of thing, but I've stopped trying to get the perfect take and I just ask myself, what's the one mistake I hear and can I live with this mistake? There will always be one mistake. Can I live with this one? And that has tremendously helped, whether it's vocals, guitar, or whatever.
Totally. I think the same goes, like literally we're obviously dialing into vocals right now, but like the same goes for even a song without vocals. Like you were saying, Luke, like if the vibe is right, people will ignore the mix down entirely. Like if the emotion of just a simple beat is right, everything else goes out the window. It doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah.
It's really important to hammer home on that.
It just hit me like, isn't the point of a mix down to make sure the intended balance of emotion in the song comes through? Like, if this song is about harsh, angry guitars and like cymbal crashes, you mix it so that those are out front and the emotion of them comes through. And like, okay, yeah, maybe the snare's a little bit further back than a different type of track would have been, like a boom bap rap song, because that mix is mostly about the drums with like, I guess, whatever, you know, the emotion that the sample is playing, or, you know, a dubstep track is about that trippy sound design, making you go, whoa, I got to headbang to this and screw up my face. Like, that's the emotion we're conveying here. It's like, are we trying to be soulful? Are we trying to be groovy? Are we trying to be angry? Like, what's the point of the song? And the point's the emotion that we're getting across.
Yeah, on that point of emotion, one thing I realized is like through all my time of like trying to get better at my instrument and like, you know, to be totally transparent, like in the beginning when I was saying I like transcribed like 30 drum songs, that was because my rhythm was so ass. So ass. I could play eighth note, 16th note arpeggios all day, but you ask me to throw in some kind of funky groove mixed in with that, it's like it wouldn't have any feeling. I was so focused on like, let me get tight to the metronome, like let me learn fucking concerto 4 how he wants it so that like I get this mark if I cared about it that week. So like everything was very, very, very proper. And there was a video on YouTube, I think by Neely, and it was called something like breaking down music theory. And he's like, every time you hear music theory, hear harmonic system invented by like early Europeans and blah, 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 blah. And then I realized like, oh shit, like this is why this framework is not working for rap music. This is why it's not working for R&B. And like, you know, I think coming into rap and R&B was like, I knew coming into a genre like that, I had to respect the background of it. And I knew that this isn't something I grew up with. And for a lot of these like more like quote unquote black genres, this is like very like serious way that a lot of you know, African Americans got out of poverty. And like it's something that has been like, you know, obviously widely accepted by the population, but there's always like a white face put onto it and it's kind of washed down. And I felt like I never want to be that guy to do that. I want it to transcend race if I like pull influence from this. And I hope that anybody listening to what I do wouldn't think first like, oh, it's a white boy doing rap, you know? So there was a lot of just being like, all right, I have all of this technical skill and I can do things perfect, but a lot of my white boy sound in these genres is my strive for perfection, is my trying to adhere to music theory, aka the harmonic system invented by early Europeans. Yeah, this video, white music theory and white supremacy. Sounds like an outlandish title, but is definitely worth a watch, because when you realize this framework is trying to be applied to all these different types of music, it makes absolutely no sense. And so when I realized like a lot of rap and R&B and jazz, blues, all this kind of stuff was made through like the amazing black musicians that had to kind of figure this shit out and bend the rules and like take what they could learn and take it a step further. It really brought me so much respect for what there was to learn here. And, you know, a lot of like the mentors and stuff I worked with more in that kind of field, I had to approach it as like, all right, I know all this technical shit, but I need to be approaching this as if I don't know shit and really just build myself up from the ground up, because I never made soulful music up until then. I realized I'd only been making music that sounds cool, which is way different than music that has emotion. And obviously blues and stuff like that, there's a lot of pain behind that music and there's a lot of real raw genuine emotion. And you know, I think nowadays you look at modern rap and it's almost like a parody version of what it was. But when I really got to dig deep into the roots of these genres and like, you know, give it the proper respect in terms of educating myself on them and realizing that there's so much more here that I need to learn still. It I don't know, it really helped with the whole like, I want to make music that unifies people and isn't limited to one genre. And you know,
yeah, just like the place you grew up.
Amen.
Yeah,
reflection of your roots, multicultural, multi-influence. And for the listeners, I'm including the YouTube link to the Adam Neely Music Theory and White Supremacy in the show notes. I'm going to be checking this out. I suggest y'all do too.
Yeah, great video.
For sure.
And I'd encourage everybody to, like, a lot of my music theory journey, I still love reading on the extended chords and the jazz stuff and trying to rack my brain to, you know, figure out how to do these neo soul chord progressions and crazy jazz shit, but a lot of the most useful stuff I've learned is kind of looking outside of this music theory, or like Western music theory, and look at Chinese music theory or like Indian music theory, and you realize like, oh, like pentatonics, for example, are very, very common in different places around the world. Or like Serbian music sounds very much like Arabic, Middle Eastern music. And so I noticed like bro, there, when I would ask people how do you play the Serbian song, there's nobody being like, all right, you take the 4 chord of the C minor scale and it's based on feel. It's based on a certain, like, I don't even know how to explain it, but there's a context in which, I mean, music's just patterns embedded within patterns. And when you recognize certain patterns, you can apply ideas within context. And so learning and seeing how people around the world theorize music, put it into understandable patterns and contexts, has been really eye-opening. And in seeing that the Western music theory approach is not the only way, and in fact it's kind of limiting, and a lot of that quote unquote white boy sound I was trying to avoid early on when I was just getting into, trying to learn how to rap or whatever, was I was treating it like I was being graded. I was treating it like when I was recording metal and I'd be like, oh bro, what are you doing? You're totally off the metronome, get tighter. And I would just practice my riffs onto the metronome and getting that shit precise. Great for metal, ass for R&B, ass for hip hop. And so there was a lot of undoing.
The metronome's important there, but it's about knowing where the metronome is so you can dance around it in the pocket. In the
pocket
groove.
Was like another thing. I remember watching like a John Bellion in the studio video, and he's like, bro, this pocket's so crazy. Like, it's got that Jay Dilla pocket. And I was like, what? So I went on a whole Jay Dilla binge. Like, what's this about? Oh, he's from Detroit, right across the river. Oh shit. Oh damn, Jay Dilla is actually crazy artist. He's very influential.
Super influential.
He inspired all these
producer.
people. Yeah, so it's like going down that, I'm like, every kind of new thing I learn is a new rabbit hole. And like, you learn like Jay Dilla never synced his shit. And then I'm like, oh shit, well, I've always synced my shit. What if I get a little looser with it? And stuff like this start really to break my kind of go-to like toolbox,
the preconceived notions of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's been the biggest thing. I think working with mentors in general, but second to that, like, whatever, if you don't want to do R&B, I'm sure you could be a dubstep or a house music star or whatever, and just find mentors within that. I'll always say find mentors first. But if you can go outside of your genre, like, I didn't even think I would really be like rapping and like vocalizing and doing all this shit. It's just now enough time has passed. It's crazy to think it's been like 4 years since my first vocal lesson. And like, I just feel more comfortable doing shit, but just get into it for the sake of like, if you synthesize all of your elements, why don't you just sing in a melody, auto-tune the shit out of it, and then like fuck with it and make it into a synth. Certain stuff like that, like we've talked about before, like I used to like mouth drops like wow, bah, 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 and then put the sound design to it. And like, now that I've started singing, even on the tracks where I don't sing, don't rap, nothing, I mouth so much more stuff, and it helps so much with the singable. Like, not that the ideas need to be singable, but if you want people to be like replaying it in their head throughout the day, it needs to be quote unquote singable, mentally singable, So
I think that's where a lot of like checkerboarding and stuff like that, and like understanding how attention works, and like as producers, it's so easy with unlimited tracks to just be like, and this, and now it's cooler because it's more complex shit, right? And it's like at a certain point, which is pretty early in that complex stack, it's like, nah, it just makes this harder to remember what's happening, harder to sing along, You know,
Totally.
great, you know, there's a reason like your favorite rock songs didn't have the guitar solo happening over the lyrics. It's like BB King would like spit the lyric and then hit the lick and then jump back and forth, and you can the thrill is gone, wow, wow. Like, they go back and forth, and you get this one thing to pay attention to while the rhythm section holds down the rest.
Yeah, man. Pretty crazy too. Like Dylan had a video where he was talking about how a lot of call and response and certain techniques like that were from old like slave spirituals, and like that video opened up my eyes a ton, and then seeing how that evolved into blues music, and then seeing how blues evolved into jazz, into rap, into hip hop, seeing like, oh damn,
through
like
rock and through funk, and
like this isn't checkerboarding.
Disco.
isn't chopping things up in the DAW on a grid. Checkerboarding or call and response was how people would pass the time and vibe off each other to like, you know, go through one of the most like horrifying experiences to be enslaved. You're trying to kill the time, and they are able to lift their spirits up through feeding off each other's energy and call and response singing and stuff like that. And I know that's like kind of like a deep topic, but that just blew my mind that like all of this like stomps and claps and stuff that we hear in modern music today, this was like a very real way for people to like get through very agonizing days. And like there was power in this. There was this unifying factor in this, and it just made me gain such a respect for why this stuff speaks to us so deeply. Like there's something about you know, like multiple voice singing and like call and response off of each other and stuff like that is just very powerful. And it's undeniable when you hear like a quartet of people singing, or you hear multiple vocalists like bouncing off each other and stuff like that. It's like one of the most beautiful things ever, you know? And
it's just very human. It's just incredibly human. And I think that's why everyone connects with it so well.
Totally.
You know, it's just human music.
Woo! Human music. Yeah, so just to see that kind of aspect, see Dylan talk about that, and then see his videos on checkerboarding where it's this very technical in the computer thing, you know, coming more to like the performed genres where things are a little more loose and felt, blues, jazz, rock, all that. Coming back to that was like, I gained such a new respect for that I don't think I could have if I just stayed within my lane of what I was doing previously. So yeah, pretty fascinating stuff. And then too, I think like the Serbian music background is just like hearing this music and you're like why does it sound Middle Eastern-y? Like what does Middle Eastern-y mean? Oh, okay, they use this scale. Oh, okay. Why do Serbian people use the scale? Oh, okay, cool. And then you read about the history of that. Like, Serbs were like invaded by Turkish people for like a couple hundred years. So there's a lot of Turkish influence in that, which is obviously tied with the Islamic world. So you get like in a not Islamic kind of area of the world, you get a lot of this influence. And like growing up and being able to like look at history and kind of contextualize like where all this came from and why does it sound how it sounds, and how does Serbian music work in comparison to like Western music, shit like that. The more I can open my eyes up to different cultures and where this stuff originated from, really get deep, it's brought, you know, opened up my eyes. Like I think of like barbershop quartets and they would like clap and sing, and I'm like, bro, you listen to any rap, any R&B is a fucking clap. It's an 808 clap. Where did that come from? People singing and clapping along.
Mm-hmm. Deep
like
roots.
I never thought about it like that. I just thought, oh, it's an 808 clap. But like people have been clapping for a long ass time.
Yeah, that's prehistoric shit. That's like sitting around a fire, eating what you found in the forest, singing, clapping, telling stories. Like it's
being
the
on it.
most basic human thing, passing on knowledge, emotion, wisdom, having a good time, you know?
Yeah.
Living it up in a crazy world where you can. Like that's deep human music.
It is.
Yeah,
Truly.
man. So I'd recommend that for anybody looking for new shit, you know?
I like it.
Amen. But
Cool.
Tesko, tell them how to find you on the internet besides on the podcast they're currently listening to.
Well, yo, first off, thanks for anybody that stuck along listening to me ramble, and Luke and Evan here, they had no choice. Welcome. They had to listen. And yeah, you can find me online at I am Tesko on all socials. IamTesko.com. I believe I still own that domain. And patreon.com/IamTesko if you want to, check out some of my educational music stuff.
Proud sponsor of the show.
Yeah. If you want some production tips from me and random thoughts, that's where you can find that. I'm also on YouTube, youtube.com/C/Tesko makes music for free stuff. And obviously at the dojo, thehumanmusicpodcast.com. And I feel like I'm probably forgetting something, but that's fine. Shoot me a thing on Instagram, DM. We'll chat it up. We'll have a realer conversation.
Yes.
See you, Lito.
Well, thank you, humans, for being here with us. Big up, chat.
Big up.
And till next week, peace.
Peace.
And peace among worlds.
I like it.
All right, humans. Thank y'all so much for being with us again and again and again. Go to thehumanmusicpodcast.com to follow us on our socials. Check out our free sound pack, more episodes, and more of everything that we do. Find all our sponsors like Dojo TV. That's where we recorded this. You can get free producer classes on the live streams from the Producer Dojo Senseis. Tesko's Patreon, our boy Tesko, who you just learned so much about, drops so much free game for you, has got a Patreon where you can support him and in return get access to his Discord, track feedback, private lessons, and much more. The weekly download where you can learn from ill.Gates, our mentor, in his private weekly group lessons and get access to almost 300 more episodes in the archive for just $20 a month. And guest practices where you can learn from Seth Drake at the Approach Institute. He's the best engineer we know, and your first class is free. I was talking about that music theory and white supremacy that got brought up. That's by Adam Neely. There's a YouTube link for that down in the description. And the song of the week where you can check out Tesko's remix of Flying by ill.Gates, Stephen Jacobs featuring Jackie Rain. Links to all that. All right. Next week, I believe we're talking about burnout and how to avoid that shit. I bet you burnt out. I've burnt out. How do we avoid burning out? What do we do when we're burnt out? Let's see. We'll talk about it next week. All right. Till then, peace and peace among worlds, humans.